Sinisterism is about finding the primal aspects of the left-hand path, primal in history, primal in the psyche, thus obtaining truth. Thomas Leroy.
Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to your dose of sinister heathenry. But for those new to the channel, I'm Thomas Leroy, founder of the International Left-Hand Path organization, the Sect of the Horn God. The sect is an educational foundation created to not only make those with the black flame aware of its glow, but to also restore the shadow aspects to the ancient gods by going deep into the past, not only historically, but also psychologically. For the primordial depths of the psyche are limitless. So, if this sounds interesting, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to learn more, join the organization, the Sect of the Horn God, at the link down below. Thank you. As stated in my last video, Leviathan will be made manifest in the coming age, bringing about a tectonic shift within the collective unconscious, which is, in truth, a rebirth of the spiritus mundi, or primal consciousness. But you may be thinking, how is one inclined to relate to it on a personal, psychological level? Bluntly put, how the fuck is this going to help me? Well, it'll help you by expanding your awareness, allowing you to ride the Leviathan instead of being devoured by it. There's an Asian saying, ride the tiger, referring to how an enlightened individual can cope with modern society not by running away from it or trying to destroy it, but by getting on top of it and transcending it. And you, my friends and colleagues on the left-hand path, can do the same in the age of Leviathan. But how, you may ask? You do it by understanding the symbology of the serpent and its connection to the primal unconscious. A major aspect of consciousness is self-awareness, which is the recognition of oneself as a distinct entity, separate from the environment and other individuals. It includes the ability to reflect on one's own thoughts and experiences. Thus, what appears to us as a very simple ability, awareness, would be the baby steps on the left-hand path, the path to self-deification. But who or what was the first to do so? Meaning, who was the first conscious being? To begin with, despite advances in neuroscience and psychology, there's no true science of consciousness. So who would you ask? I don't know, but I can't help but wonder. It's kind of like the theory that all blue-eyed people come from a common ancestor dating back about 10,000 years. There was a first, and consciousness, like everything else, must have its origin. But the identity of the first conscious being would vary greatly depending on the framework used to explore this question. For example, philosophically, consciousness involves the nature of thought and awareness. The first conscious being would be seen as the first entity capable of self-reflection and thought. Now, if one were to attempt to view it from a scientific perspective, you would see it as a gradual evolutionary process rather than a single first consciousness. Now, in some interpretations of the Eastern philosophical perspective, consciousness is an intrinsic part of the cosmos, not tied to a single first being, but rather an internal aspect of reality that manifests through various forms. In the mythological and religious perspectives, it often involves a creator deity or primordial entity. For example, in ancient Egyptian mythology, the first conscious being emerged from the primordial chaos and created the gods and the world. While in Hindu mythology, Brahma, the creator god, is often regarded as the first conscious being who emerged from the cosmic waters. Now, I like coming up with what you could call what-ifs, thought experiments, hypotheses, whatever you want to call it. And a recent one I came up with was, what if that original conscious human being, maybe going back, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years, was also endowed with the original pure consciousness? Get what I'm saying? And all other consciousnesses are copies of that original. Picture it as a statement or a code documented on a sheet of paper. What happens if you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and so on and so forth? After a while, its content is no longer legible. And when it comes to consciousness, this has been going on for many thousands of years. What would you end up with? So, somehow reconnecting with that primal consciousness would be very important if one wants to break on through, if you will. The serpent is one of the most enduring and multifaceted symbols in human history, appearing in various cultures with a range of meanings, often reflecting the idea of the primal consciousness. It represents the deep instinctual aspects of the psyche, the process of transformation and renewal, and the dual nature of existence. Carl Jung viewed the serpent as a symbol of the unconscious mind and primal instincts, for it represents the integration of the shadow aspect of the self, leading toward wholeness and individuation. Psychologically speaking, one could see the serpent's role as that of a guide or a bridge to a deeper self-awareness. The Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail, symbolizes the cyclical nature of the universe, eternal renewal, and the interconnectedness of life and death. This image reflects a sophisticated understanding of the conscious mind as an ongoing cycle of creation and destruction, growth and decay. The serpent's shedding of its skin is another powerful metaphor for the transformation and renewal in the psychological realm. This act symbolizes the shedding of old patterns and the emergence of a new self. Now, besides the psychological perspective, the serpent is a potent symbol in various mythologies and religions. In Egyptian mythology, the serpent Apep represents chaos and the primal forces of nature that must be subdued for order to prevail. In Hinduism, the serpent, or Naga, holds significant meaning. The Kundalini, often depicted as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, represents latent spiritual energy. The awakening of the Kundalini through meditation and spiritual practices is said to lead to higher states of consciousness and enlightenment. According to Greek mythology, the serpent is often associated with the chthonic underworld elements, while in Norse mythology, Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, encircles the world, representing the boundless primal forces and the cyclical nature of existence. And of course, there is the Judeo-Christian traditions, where the serpent in the Garden of Eden symbolizes knowledge and the awakening of human consciousness, but through the lens of transgression and fall from innocence. This story from the book of Genesis positions the serpent as a catalyst for the transition from innocence to consciousness, from a state of pure being to one of moral and existential awareness. And since, in the eyes of many, the serpent has an association with Satan, we, on the left-hand path, should not view it as a deceiver, but as a liberator, challenging the status quo and encouraging us to seek sinister illumination. Thus, it is a dynamic force that disrupts the static state of innocence, bringing life into a new phase. Integrating the symbol of the serpent to achieve self-deification involves understanding and assimilating those unconscious aspects of the psyche that the serpent represents. One must understand that the serpent is an archetype that embodies primal, instinctual forces within the human psyche. These forces, often residing in the unconscious, must be acknowledged, understood, and made one with the conscious mind. But how the fuck do you do that, you may ask? To integrate the serpent, one must first become aware of and integrate the shadow, which holds the traits, emotions, and desires that have been repressed or denied. A way of doing this is by paying attention to your dreams, as they often reveal unconscious content. And serpents appearing in dreams can indicate the presence of repressed instincts or unresolved psychological issues. Now, once the shadow aspects are recognized, the next step is to confront and accept them. This requires being honest with yourself by facing your personal demon without judgment or fear. So, integration involves bringing the unconscious content into conscious awareness and finding a constructive way to incorporate these aspects into one's life. This can be achieved through dark ritual, automatic drawing, writing, or other kinds of creative expression to explore and express unconscious material. Also, active imagination is a good technique developed by Jung, where one dialogues with the figures and symbols from the dreams or fantasies you have, allowing unconscious content to be integrated. And like I said earlier, if you want to go more toward the east, try awakening the Kundalini to enhance self-awareness. The ultimate goal of integrating the serpent and thus the shadow is to achieve individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming whole and realizing one's true self, which involves reconciling the opposites within the psyche, such as conscious and unconscious, rational and irrational, and masculine and feminine, and so on and so forth. Thus, integrating the serpent helps in realizing the totality of the self by incorporating instinctual wisdom and primal energies into conscious life. But how do you do that? You do it by letting go, releasing outdated beliefs, behaviors, and emotional responses that no longer lead to your personal growth. And the symbol of the serpent shedding its skin symbolizes this process of renewal and transformation. Integrating the serpent leads to a greater awareness and a connection with the primal consciousness by bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness. This balancing of primal instincts with rational thought brings about personal transformation, which is rooted in the recognition and acceptance of the shadow. In sinistrous philosophy, chaos and primal energies are seen as fundamental aspects of the universe that can be harnessed for personal growth and magical practices. Thus, the serpent is a symbol of these chaotic forces, the raw, untamed power the practitioner seeks to channel and control, ultimately leading to self-deification. In conclusion, my friends, whether as a bringer of knowledge and awareness in religious texts, a representation of primal instincts in psychology, or a metaphor for transformation and renewal, the serpent reflects the complexities and dualities inherent in this path we're on. Its enduring presence across cultures and epochs attests to its profound meaning within the human psyche and our perpetual quest to understand the nature of our own awareness. Thus, understanding what it is and represents will help you to ride the Leviathan instead of being consumed by it. Until next time.